Hello everyone, how are you today? It's time for a Jeremiah update and we're in chapter 7 today. I want to make a few comments, but before I do, let me give a quick shout out to my sister Tony, who gave me this warm, beautiful, well-made Duluth vest. And don't I look good in it? Thank you, Tony, for this gift. I sure do appreciate it, and I needed one. Okay, let's get my notes out and my Bible, and let's talk about a few references in Jeremiah chapter 7. First of all, let's talk about this reference to Shiloh in chapter 7 and verse 14. The people of Judah thought that they were safe in the temple in Jerusalem, but God says, don't forget Shiloh. This town once housed the building where the Ark of the Covenant was kept during the days of Eli the priest. But the town was destroyed by the Philistines, 1 Samuel chapter 4. That God's name was there did not guarantee the inviolability of the town. God wants His people to know that. They can't just trust in the fact that they are in the temple where God's name is known, and they think they're safe there. If they're not living for Him, they're not safe anywhere. Second reference, chapter 7, verse 18, to the Queen of Heaven. Now, this is a reference to the Assyro-Babylonian goddess Astarte, A-S-T-A-R-T-E, Astarte. This was a popular goddess in the days of the evil king of Judah, Manasseh. And the worship of this goddess or other gods was a rejection, of course, of the Lord's sole sovereignty. Remember, God said, you shall have no other gods before me. They were worshiping the Queen of Heaven, Astarte. Third reference is to Topheth, chapter 7, verse 31. This word Topheth may come from an Aramaic term that meant fireplace. This was a high place, the scene of pagan rites, which included, unbelievably, human sacrifices. Now, child sacrifice was practiced during the reign of Manasseh, 2 Kings chapter 23 and verse 10. And child sacrifice was known among the Amorites, who worshipped the god Molech. And look at chapter 7 and verse 31. Let's see, Carrie, you're in chapter 7, but I need to flip this page to verse 31. And there, Jeremiah says, and they go on building the high place of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and daughters in the fire, which I did not command, nor did it come into my mind. That phrase is interesting to me. I did not command you to sacrifice your children in the fire to me, God says. In fact, such an idea never entered into my mind. Well, why would it? It's abominable to do such a thing. Topheth. The Lord never commanded such an evil thing. Now, some words of application, if you don't mind. I want to mention chapter 7, verses 5 and 6. Let me flip back a page in my Bible, verses 5 and 6. Here, Jeremiah gives us the conditions under which God will continue to live among His people. For if you truly amend your ways and your doings, if you truly act justly one with another, if you do not oppress the alien, the orphan, and the widow, or shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not go after other gods to your own hurt, then I will dwell with you in this place. What's interesting to me about this passage is that Jeremiah wants these people to know that not only do they have an obligation to God to worship and serve Him only, but they also have an obligation to one another, to people. I think that's something we can apply to ourselves, don't you think? Those who worship the Lord have obligations to one another. And what are those obligations? To be concerned with human welfare. I want you to treat each other justly, Jeremiah says. I don't want you to oppress the alien, the orphan, and the widow. God was often concerned about these people in the Old Testament, wasn't He? But I think that's something we can apply to our own lives. To follow God and to serve God means that we also have an obligation to the people around us. Are we treating them right, with respect, with fairness, with justice? Are we showing our concern for them? Are we interested in their welfare? Or are we building walls around ourselves and isolating ourselves from people and thinking selfishly Well, you get the point of the application there, don't you? A second passage I want us to think about regarding application, chapter 7, verse 28, where God says that there was a time when truth has perished. Wow. That is an interesting phrase in and of itself. Actually, though, I think a better term than truth here would be faithfulness. Faithfulness has perished. Jeremiah is indicting the people because they are not keeping their promises, not to God and not to one another. This is a trait by which God's people must be known. They are faithful people. Well, they're like their God, right? They are faithful. They keep their promises. They keep their promises to God. They keep their promises in marriage. They keep their promises to one another. They keep their promises in business. They are people whose word is their bond. They are faithful, reliable, dependable. Now, we're about to enter into a reading of chapter 8. In chapter 8, we're going to read about an incorrigible nation and its fate, the nation of Judah. And again, we will see Israel's stubborn and incurable rebellion. And that's a warning to all of us. And then beginning in chapter 9 and verse 1, we'll notice again Jeremiah's grief over Jerusalem. He cared deeply for Jerusalem. Hey, he was from a little town just to the north of Jerusalem. He must have made frequent trips there. He loved that city. He loved the people there. And to hear that this city was doomed because of their rebellion brought him a lot of grief. There's a lesson for us there too, don't you think? Okay. I hope this has been short. I don't want to take up a lot of your time with these vlogs. And I hope the information that I share with you and the comments about application will be helpful to you. I'll see you in a few days. God bless.